Have you ever felt that thrill of an amazing performance, or maybe the high of getting that perfect take when you're doing a recording, only to feel the very next day the lows of the self doubt and not feeling like maybe it wasn't as good as you remember? Well, I have news for you. This is a universal thing we all go through as musicians and artists, and maybe it's time we start thinking of ways to address these problems and identify them and experience it together. Let's have a think on that.
Hello and welcome, where we are here to strengthen music careers and communities one song at a time. And now here's your host, Jacob Wing. Yay!
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode. Today we're just going to talk a little back and forth about the life of a musician and what we experience as the highs and the lows, the yin and the yang, the push and the pull, the give and the take of being a musician. And I don't care who you are, how far you're into this journey, if you're just beginning, if you're a lifelong musician, if you're a professional, a hobbyist, whatever it is, this is part of the entire journey. There are going to be the highest of highs that just no amount of drugs or anything else can ever touch that. And the lowest of lows that make you wonder why you even wasted time learning to do what you're doing or investing any of your life into this. Identifying that this is a thing that we all go through and talking about it is a little bit therapeutic, but it also gives you the chance to just go through it at a more even keel and let the highs happen and enjoy them and not let the lows drag you down so far and really just be more consistent. We're all about finding that momentum, getting to that point where you can just keep pushing forward and getting results and building your career. And that perfect place exists only in this little area of never getting too high or letting yourself drag down too low, and existing in this area where you can stay productive and understand that, yeah, that was a great performance. Hey, that was a great take. Or, hey, I really messed that up. Or I really suck at this. Never letting that pull you too far one way or the other, and just pushing forward in that middle area. And so today we're going to talk about that. I'm going to give you 5 of the cons of being a musician, those things that drag us down and give us those lows. And then we're going to talk about 5 of the highs and what's so great about being an independent musician or just a musician in general, whatever level you're at. And then at the very end of this, we're going to give you a little bonus of 3 things that you can do dealing with the lows. So you're not just understanding they happen, but there's things that you can do to take that on. But let's get right into it. Let's talk about the lows of being a musician when you're on that roller coaster, hitting the lows of why am I here? Why do I keep doing this? What's the point? There's a lot of reasons that we can be dragged down. A lot of it is self-doubt. A lot of it is seeing others and not feeling like you're as good as them, or you're going to reach the heights at their height, or you're better than them and you should be further along than them. All those things we've talked about and addressed. That's not what we're really touching upon today, but we can. But here's what we're really going to start talking about. And the first low I want to talk about is the uncertainty of income that comes with being a musician. And that's one of the hardest things about doing this job. If you go from being just a part-time hobbyist and just doing this in your bedroom or just seeing what you can do as a songwriter or as a musician, and just when you finally decide to get out there and take the leap of faith and start doing this full time, income is really, really just stagnant, and you just never know when that next check's coming in, when that next show is going to push you forward, or so, even if you have a good booking of shows, you don't know if the turnout's going to be good, or even if the turnout is good, if they're going to come to your merch booth and buy some CDs and get a couple shirts and posters and cups, whatever it may be that you have in your merch table. It can be hit and miss, and it's hard to tell how much you're going to have to invest into your future going forward, be that with recordings or equipment, new gear, or just in your daily life. Am I going to be able to eat tomorrow? How am I going to pay rent? How many jobs do I have to work? Do I have to have a part-time job? Do I have to have 2 part-time jobs? Do I have to have a full-time job and try to find a way to make this work? And a lot of people figure that out the hard way, where they put both feet in and just jump, and then they're overwhelmed, and then they have to go back to their full-time job, and then they just don't want to go back to try this for another couple of years. And for a lot of people, it's better just to wade into these waters, and that's fine. I mean, you have to figure out what works for you, your life, and the people in it, what's important to you, setting those priorities, all those kind of things. But this is one of those lows that just, it hits all of us as a musician. Getting money, getting that income stream, seeing what's possible and what you get paid for your talents and the things that you've invested so much time in developing and cultivating these skills, just to see them not pay off day after day after week or after a month or a couple months of just nothing, and then just a bunch of money again, like that. Just the inconsistency of that income can be really frustrating, and it really bring you to lows of, why am I doing this? Can I afford to do this? Maybe this isn't for me. Maybe I'm not really going to make it. Those kind of things really drag us down, and that's one of the hard parts. That's the first one. Let's go on right to the second one. Second one we're going to talk about. One of the hard parts about a musician, of course, is just the long and inconsistent hours compared to any other job, whatever you're doing as either a part-time job or a full-time job, or what you did before as becoming a musician. Those hours can be more consistent. You know when you're going to work, you know when to show up, you know when it's done, you know when you can walk away. But as a musician, that's not something we have. You have to wake up and give yourself that motivation, whatever time that is, and you have to work till it's done. Did you finish that song? Did you get enough work done? Did you get the practice in? Did you develop your skills to enough level? Do you understand the songs you're going to perform to the level that they need to be? There is no set time for this because it's different for everybody, and so our hours vary wildly. It makes it tough. It's hard. It's one of those things where you can really just put too much time in, versus how much you are putting into learning the skill and doing all the work, recording and all that, versus the payoff of the show and all that kind of stuff, or getting paid for the recordings, or, name 10 other things. What are the highs? But, just really easy to get down and be unhappy because it feels like you're putting so much more effort over here than getting the return. And it's just part of the roller coaster. And the more that you understand that, and it's just, you're going to feel those highs. You're going to get to those points where you're starting to see those payoffs. But music is one of those things definitely where you have to put the work in first and have that delayed gratification of this is hard now, but it's going to pay off later. And seeing that and seeing the rainbow at the end, it's really hard sometimes. Seeing the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is what I was trying to say, like a complete moron. But that's the point, is that sometimes it just, as a musician, there's this delayed gratification. If you want to take your career further, if you want to grow, you're going to have to put work at the forefront and just know that it's going to pay off later. And that can be a real roller coaster for people. That could be something that really drags you down. Number 3, creative and emotional strain. This is just one of those things that it comes with all artistic endeavors. Anything that you have to create something from nothing and share it with the world, there is a point where it just keeps going and going and going, and there's this strain of, is it ever going to be enough? Am I going to ever see the end of this? Is there ever going to come to an end? Those things of, how much is it going to take for me, and when is it good enough? You never know. Like you just can't ever figure out where the end is going to come from, and burnout is a real thing. And it happens with music. It happens with, content creators. It happens with social influencers. Anybody that has to do with dealing with the public and creating something and sharing with them and hoping to get something back, at some point it's really easy to get burned out, and finding that balance is really tough. And number 4, the lack of job security. So this kind of goes hand in hand with uncertainty in income, but the lack of job security, you don't know what tomorrow's going to look like. You don't know if the band you're in is going to, how long it's going to be together, if it's going to stay together. It's so volatile as to what's going to work, how long it's going to last. You just never know. And that even goes with, you don't know if you're going to have a consistency of shows that you had the season before or the year before. You don't know if all those venues are going to book you again. You don't know if they're going to be in business, next time it comes around. You just never know where that next job's going to come from, that next show, that next payment's going to come from. And it's just really hard and can be really a drain on you when you feel like you're building some momentum, you're getting these great bookings, and then they start to disappear, and you're just hitting these lows. Is it me? What's going on here? Why am I not staying consistently booked like so-and-so, where I'm seeing them on social media where they're killing it. Every day they're out there. Every day there's a new show. Every weekend there's just all these photos of them killing it out on the stage. and I can't get 1 or 2 shows in a month. We've all felt it. We'll all be there. We're all going to be there again. And it's just understanding that there are the high and the lows. And the more that you can be consistent and stay in that middle ground that we're talking about, the more that you can find ways to keep yourself booked and find side gigs and find ways to fill in those gaps. The more experience you have, the more things you have to draw upon, the less of those lows that start to show up. The last thing we're going to talk about, and number 5 on the cons that we're going to list today, the lows that drag us down as musicians, is that sometimes just being a musician, you get stuck in this island, and it can be really just daunting and overwhelming and draining, to where you feel like you're alone and you're working by yourself. People don't understand your vision. They don't understand what you're trying to achieve. There's this feeling of they'll get it when they hear it, or if I can just get it out there and it'll draw people in, that old, if you build it, they will come kind of mentality. And you can really feel like you don't have people in your corner, and you don't have connections with others, and you don't know why you're doing this. You're just creating something that just sits there and stale, gathers dust, especially in this modern world we live in, this modern economy for musicians. You're putting all this stuff out there into the sea of music, and you're a drop of nothing. How are they going to hear you? Just the irrelevance that comes with being a musician, an artist, somebody trying to reach out to others. That feeling can be so overwhelming and daunting. It's one of the worst things. But you have to remember, again, when we exist in this middle, that there is a middle ground of, no matter what you're putting out there, what level you're at, you're always somehow connecting with others. And you need to be able to figure out those moments of, how am I building connections with others? Who's listening to my music? What are they taking away from it? How can I find more ways to have those moments with others where they can hear my music and take something away from it? How to get off that island and start to build that community or be part of another community. But those are the 5 cons. I mean, those are some of the 5 worst of the downs of being a musician. But let's talk about when you get right back up and you're feeling those highs and you're feeling great. Let's talk about 5 of those highs of being a musician. 5 of the great reasons why we do this. The first one we want to talk about is creative expression. And that just boils down to, if you are one of the few people in this world that you do this as a daily routine, where you get to express and show the world parts of your soul that would stay hidden, that you would hide away if you were doing anything else, and you get to share that with the world and make it a thing. You get to take something that is completely nothing and create it and let the world observe it, listen to it, and put their spin on it, envelop their essence onto what it is, and enjoy that. And there's a sense of gratification that comes from knowing that you get to do that as a living. You get to share and create something that didn't exist in this world before, but it now does because of you, your work, your talents, your efforts. And there's just not a feeling like that in the world. There's just something, as a musician, I guarantee if you've done this and this is who you are, and you know that you're going to do this day in and day out, you couldn't see it in any other way. You couldn't do it any other way, because you have to do this. There's something in you that has to create and make this happen. And there's just no high like when you put that onto the world and you see it and you're able to reflect upon it. There's no high like that. So the second best thing, the second high, is just the opportunity for growth. And again, this is one of those ones we were talking about with cons, where it's hard sometimes, where you see others and what they're achieving, and their social media is just blowing up, and you are just jealous of what they're doing. But you also have the same flip side of that, where you get to look at that and say, I see what they're doing. They're in my area, or they're in my genre, or they're in my community, and that's something I can achieve. And that's really cool. You have this idea where you can start from nothing and grow and become something. There's this room for growth of, you can take this as far as you want to. It might not happen on the timeline that you want or the schedule that you're hoping for, but you can achieve, very realistic levels of being a person in your community that is known as a professional musician, that's putting on top-notch shows, that's opening for big acts, that's growing and has that potential to take that next step forward as a national act. We all have that potential, and that doesn't exist for a lot of places. It's just, you're climbing ladders as a corporate person you're only going to get so far. You can only kiss butt so much to get to that next level, and then you're stuck again. That's not a thing as a musician. You go as far as you can, and you learn to, and you adapt, and you're able to grow as much as you're able to in your community with what's around you. So that's a really cool feeling to know that really the sky's the limit, and what I do is what's going to determine how far I can go, and that's really cool. Number three, personal therapy. And this is a huge win as musicians, as artists, as songwriters, as anybody in the arts, really, is that we get to express our innermost turmoil, our greatest dreams come true, whatever it is, the highest highs of our lives, the lowest lows, losing somebody, watching somebody pass away or die. You have an outlet to express yourself, to be thankful for that life, to share some parts of it, to show others what that meant to you and what you should take away from that life. It doesn't go for a lot of people. They just have to accept it and talk to the people around them and hope that that's enough. We as musicians and artists have that chance to create something and let ourselves heal a bit by sharing what that meant to us and expressing what we lost. And millions, literally millions of different ways, but not everybody has that. It goes the other way when you have something so great happening, you want to share with others and find that moment that resonates with everybody around you in your community and listeners that actually listen to your music, and share those moments, those wins that we all have. And once that resonates and you see other people singing that back at you, or singing your song, or telling you, reaching out and say what that meant to them and how it changed their lives, there's no feeling like that. There's no high like that. Again, there's no drug, there's no alcohol, there's no cigarettes that are ever going to touch anything like that. Number 4 is the connection with others, both musicians and listeners. Again, just kind of building upon that last one of, we have this opportunity to take a skill and an art that we have developed and use that to make friends, to build a family around us of other people that do the same, to lift them up when they need it, and to have them be there for you when you're going down and they see it and they can lift you back up. This isn't a case for a lot of people, especially in the corporate world that we were just talking about. It's who can climb over who. Too bad. Oh, I'm sorry you're having a rough time. This is my opportunity. You should have done more. Musicians, a lot of time, when you build a real community around them, don't do this. They don't have that. I'm sorry that you're failing, I'll climb over you. It's, hey, get back up. We've all been there. I'm sorry you're going to write that next song. You're going to have a great show coming up. We've all been down there. Let's get back up together. That connection with other people, making those friendships, making those kind of connections can very often result in lifelong connections, which is just fantastic. And it's one of the best parts of being a musician, finding another person where your part of your soul you're sharing resonates with their part of their soul they're sharing. You just can't beat that. Side, on side of finding another significant other, finding your soulmate. This is that next best thing. It's just fantastic. It's really one of the best reasons to be a musician. The last one we're going to talk about here, and is one of my favorites, and of course this kind of goes for a lot of other jobs and independent things, but the best part about being a musician is just having the freedom and the flexibility to live your life. You get to, when you're ready, when you have that break, to take the time to enjoy your family, or to work different hours and enjoy, what you do. One of my favorite parts of owning a studio, just for example, and being a musician, is that I get to wake up, at 6, 5:30, 6 in the morning, get my cup of coffee and enjoy the sunrise and start and ease into my day, because it's my job and I have this flexibility of, I can get down to the nitty gritty when I need to, but let's watch a video. Let's listen to some music here. Let's take a look at the things we've done. Let's break down what's going to happen for the day, or what I want to get done for the week or for the month. All those kind of things that you need to run a business, but you can do them at your pace because everything's flexible. You just have to get the ball rolling, but enjoy your cup of coffee, have some toast and eggs, work into your day. And then when it comes to other things in life, you can go on vacation, outside of the times that, are busy seasons. you have that time to relax and reflect and grow as a person, because you can get a better perspective because you get to step away from that. So there's just nothing like that. That flexibility and independence is just, it's so wonderful. And it's a lot of people, most people in this life don't get to enjoy that. So remember to soak that in. It's one of the best parts of being a musician. You just can't beat it. So that's 5 cons, 5 pros. We all experience it. Remember, there's always going to be the ups and downs. But let's talk really last year, just that little bonus I was talking about of dealing with the lows. How can you combat this? There's many different ways. And before I jump into just 3 quick ones, if you ever get to that point where you're super low and you just really feel like it's not worth it, recently we lost a friend that took their own life, and just remember that it's never that point. Don't go to that extreme of lows. And if you are, seek help, get therapy, betterhelp.com, reach out to friends, reach out to families. Just that little disclaimer. But let's talk about 3 ways that you can combat that. And a lot of these are going to deal with just understanding what's going on. Know that you're in that low point. Self-awareness is the key. But the first thing you can do is remember why you started. Remember why you do this. Why did you start making music? What drew you to it? What were you so excited about in the beginning? Playing that first song, learning your first chords, learning your first scales, your first performance, your first recording, all those moments. Why did you do this? What drew you in? What lights that fire in you? And always remember that. Like we were talking before, there's always that something in us as artists, as musicians, that we just have to do this. It's who we are. Remember why. Remember that part of your soul that you've embraced. And if, every low, it doesn't matter. Just go back to that point of, yeah, that was a horrible performance. Hey, I'm not getting the shows I want. Hey, I'm not making enough money. Why am I doing this? Remember the good. Remember why you even took these steps in the first place. The next thing you can do is, as I always suggest, it doesn't matter how high you're doing, how great you're doing, how far you've made in your career, you're always going to need to take that moment to step out and step back. And that comes with the first one too, to achieve being able to remember why you enjoy doing this. This is part of that, taking a step back. But this one takes a little bit more of understanding that what you've accomplished, going back and checking off those little wins of all those things we stated. Your first performance, how many performances have you had lately? What's your biggest performance? Where have you come from, and enjoy where you are now? Be amazed by what you've done, because you should be. Just take a step out of your body and look at it from another angle. Look at it from another's eyes, and just be amazed at what you've done. I promise, if you're at a low where you don't want to do this anymore, you can't see a way forward, this is a great way to lift you back up and get into what we said, that middle zone, and getting back into it. And the last one is, of course, the same thing where I was just saying, step out of your body and look at yourself from another's eyes. Be kind to yourself. Treat yourself like you would treat others. When you reach out to tell somebody they've done a good job, or celebrate their win, or tell them how great their new song is, or how wonderful their show was and how it inspired them, remember to do the same to yourself and be kind to yourself. When you're in those lows, be aware of it, call yourself out, and switch the flip of, stop tearing myself down. What did I do right? How can I learn? How can I build upon this? Be kind to yourself. And that's it. 3 bonus takes on how to address this. There's so many other ways. Again, reach out if you're having problems, you're hitting those lows. We have a community. I have people that reach out to me all the time that are having problems. They're not seeing a way forward. They don't know why they're doing this. Just reach out to somebody. We're always here. Somebody's always there. So take advantage of it. And that's it for today. The next couple weeks, we have some great ones coming up. I'm sure that you have. If it's helped you at all, give us a like, give us a subscribe. Those things have really helped. We're really so thankful for everybody that's been doing that lately. Thank you so much. We're really loving our community we're building and the steps we're taking forward. We're so excited for what's coming up. So again, like and subscribe. We look forward to seeing you guys on that next one, and you have a good one. Bye.